Welcome to Everything Casual, bringing you original football casual videos from the golden era of the 80s and 90s, right up to current day. Football away day stories and historic clashes between football firms. Subscribe so you don't miss out. We upload videos every week.
Millwall, for example, after we had Millwall down here in '99, they put stuff over social media and flyers and whatever, saying any Cardiff fans travelled up there that they were going to get filled in, weighed in, and a lot of normal supporters never went. So we took 700 up there in one firm. We all met at Paddington, and it was like an army.
Today, we are looking at two top mobs. I think these both are in everyone's top 5, if not top 3 firms in the UK. Both heavyweights, with big numbers and top lads. We are looking at Millwall and Cardiff. There is lots of previous between the two. As usual, we will listen to accounts from proper lads of both mobs. We will also look at footage too. Let's jump straight in and have the Millwall account of their battles with Cardiff. If you disagree with anything said here, then let us know in the comment section and put the story straight. First game of the 1999 season. No better way to start it off than with a trip to the land where men are men and sheep are scared. Wales, Cardiff City. We all met at Paddington Station. It was a red hot day and it was all shorts and summer tans, fresh from the break over the summer holidays. 11 of us had just enjoyed 2 weeks of peace and quiet in Zante. Half a dozen Millwall boys and 5 from work. It was their holiday and we just hijacked it, ready now to get back to business. There was no time to go on the rip in London, so we sorted a few crates between us for the trip. Stella. The first train left with about 30 of the chaps on it. The rest were following on the next train, a further 250 on the old football special. They don't want football fans mingling with the public. I missed the first train and got the second 20 minutes later. As for the first train cargo, 30 top boys, brave boys, knowing backup was the other side of the 7. What was in their heads? Numbers and safety don't enter your head at that stage. It is not something that will faze you. It just doesn't. We revert to instincts. They take over. Fight or flight. F the danger. When the first train pulled into Cardiff Station, everything seemed quiet. The 30 exited the station. The silence was broken. Sole crew. Sole crew. There were about 200 taffies waiting. Without hesitation, the Millwall 30 ran at Cardiff. They clashed head-on. This tactic shocked them, and after the first exchange, Cardiff turned and ran. A couple of the boys were telling me, as I well know, it was not a case of throwing combinations and jabs in that situation or any other situation like that. It's effing big haymakers and concentrating on making them count. No weapons were carried by our 30. They were straight off the train and straight into the sole crew. After they turned tail, our boys took over a pub in Cardiff town centre. The second train arrived with the other 250 of us. We all met up in the pub and were waiting for another attack. It didn't take long. They started throwing things at the pub. Bottles, bricks, coins, lighters, and anything they could get their hands on. No one was injured. Not one. The sole crew are not very good at throwing things, it seems. No damage to the pub either. We were all stood outside this boozer that was in a row of shops with just a few tables and chairs on the pavement. There was no damage to it whatsoever. They were safely keeping their distance. We charged them. They ran away. We stood outside and couldn't believe how easy it had been so far. Then came another attack. A repeat performance, missile throwing from a distance. We charged and they ran. After the second attack, we were surrounded by the old Bill, who kept us in the pub. They didn't want any trouble from Millwall. They let us carry on drinking. A few police were around, but not enough to stop us when we charged. It was one of those instances where the few old Bill around were not going to endanger themselves to stop two firms from having a fight. There are times when the old Bill, even with plenty of them there, and plenty of backup, just stand back and let you crack on, like Spurs in 2001, when about 100 of us attacked 100 Spurs. About 30 old Bill just stood back and watched as both firms had a right go at each other. By the time of the escort, about 1,500 Millwall were there for the game. The police had put a ring around us. Outside, that was another ring of old Bill. Outside, them were the dogs. We were totally surrounded by riot police, helmets with their numbers on the back, black boiler suits, leg pads, gloves, truncheons. I think it's meant to intimidate as much as protect, all the gear they wear. They look like effing clowns to me. A couple of big riot vans in the front were leading the way. A couple of the big meat wagons came behind, each one full to the brim with more backup. They obviously needed it. We are evil. With 30 on the first train and 250 on the second, plus a few late stragglers that couldn't get out of bed that morning, it totted up to about 300 of the Bushwackers, the most violent, vicious bunch of all the hooligan firms they encounter each season. F Troop, our predecessors, were probably the first ones to have a name. I call us the Bushwackers, but we never actually said the name. No one in our firm ever uttered the words, the Bushwackers. I know the name is used regularly when people talk about Millwall's firm, yet inside the firm, it is rarely uttered. The fact was, we were 300 of Millwall's top boys in Cardiff. On the way to the ground, Cardiff tried to get to us from the side through a park. A fair few hundred of them were sort of trying to get at us anyway. They had probably broken through some sort of police cordon or police lines, so maybe I do the Soul Crew a disservice there. But I doubt it. I know we were mad to get to them. The old Bill had truncheons drawn and plenty of big Alsatians. Get past the first one and the second one pushed you back. Get past the second one, and Welsh Lassie, a rabid, foaming lump of a dog who hadn't been fed for 3 days because Millwall were coming, was their third line of defence. The first line was strong. They pushed you back with one hand and had their 2-foot truncheons lifted over their heads at the ready, or the spring cosh, or T-bar truncheons and batons at the ready. The headloo were working hard to keep us in check. My mind was totally taken off attacking them by the police helicopter. One of the funniest things I have ever seen at a football game. The Soul Crew were in the park and had a big fence to get over, but they didn't get near that. We were still being shunted along towards the ground by the professional crowd control experts at a fairly rapid pace. But that helicopter, I couldn't take my eyes off it. They were obviously keeping Cardiff back somewhere, but I was still watching this helicopter, thinking, is he going to land that effing thing in the park? He can't land that effing thing in the park. He's landed that effing thing in the park. It worked, for the police. Cardiff Soul Crew scattered. Think 10 pinbowling, then times it by 50. Funny watching all the Soul Crew skittled by the chopper. The escort must have lasted about 20 to 30 minutes. No one broke in and no one broke out. We got to the ground and the match went on with the usual back and forth verbals. Cardiff screaming all the anti-English songs they love so much. F the Queen, Argentina, 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 Argentina. Always shit on the English side of the bridge, to the tune of always look on the bright side of life. Tickles me, that one. Argentina is a favourite of theirs. Maradona's Hand of God from the 1986 World Cup and the World Cup in 1998 after Beckham's petulant little flick, all still fresh in their minds. We are Londoners, we are Millwall, we are English, we are in a foreign country, and so we all understand their chants. They see us as English first and foremost, see, funny like. No doubt some of their sole crew have been nicked at England games, and stupid too, seeing that some Welsh guards had also died at the Falkland Islands. We retorted with no surrender and our Welsh favourite, sheep, 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 shaggers. At the end of the match, we were locked in by the old Bill. At the time, the away end was uncovered, so we were sitting ducks. It seemed like anything that was not bolted down was raining down on us. We tried to kick the side doors open, but the old Bill were holding them shut. We decided to get out another way. Pitch. There is no conference in these situations. Some heavy duty shit is raining down on you. The pitch. One voice shouted it. One went. He was up and over, and we all went. That is the Millwall way. We piled onto the pitch and ran towards the main stand, down the stairs and underneath the stadium. We kicked the doors off the grandstand to get at them. I happened to be right at the front. 3 of us were kicking at the door. It finally burst open. As it swung open, I remember a mop came flying over my right shoulder. A effing mop. Who said Millwall don't fight clean? When we opened the doors, we were met by a sea of soul crew. Straight out into the car park we steamed. I hit the nearest taffy to me. My favourite right haymaker, bang on the top of his head. He fell sideways to the floor. They weren't expecting this complete surprise attack. There was me, a young kid, and a fellow about my age. I knew their faces, but they were from the different firms that all come together to make one big firm on match day. One of the other 2, I didn't see which, threw a dig and put another on his arse. It was then time to retreat. 3 against the sea, not good odds. Suicide. You ain't got a chance. We are evil. We are not stupid. So having put a few on their arses, we then retreated into the concourse under the stand. This was to our advantage, because as they came through the doors, they were getting picked off one by one. One came at me. The right did the damage once again. As he was falling, he grabbed my shirt. Someone kicked his legs and he hit the deck. I booted him clean in the face, then booted him clean in the face again. It did some damage. Some of us were getting hit too. But concentrate, concentrate. Hit. Don't get hit. Hit. Don't get hit. Then we were getting pushed back. I was stepping over Welsh bodies. Must have been about 3 or 4 soul crew on the floor as I stepped backwards, treading all over them. They were just helpless on the floor. A few more boots went flying in as we were going backwards. They just kept coming and managed to push us back by sheer weight of numbers. With the individual fighting, we were still on top. The old Bill came storming in and got between us. We regrouped on the pitch ready for another go, but they had it under control now. We were not exactly unscathed ourselves. One lad of ours had a bad cut over his eye. He was covered in claret all down his face and all down his shirt. He wasn't dazed or nothing like that. Cuts look a lot worse than they actually are. A couple of stitches would have seen him right, and he would be back for the next game. On the pitch, we got surrounded again, herded like animals, but we are not. The fighting, the hooliganism, it is sport for us. This is consenting adults. It is like-minded people doing something they get pleasure out of. I can totally understand why people are appalled and sickened. My dad always was. But try to understand in return the pleasure that we get out of it. No, never mind. We are all different and that will suffice. They put us back in the away end. All the Cardiff were out of the ground now. No more shite raining down on us. They kept us there for another 15 minutes or so. No Cardiff boys had stuck around while we were being detained. There was a swift frog march down to the station, and we were off back to Paddington on a dry run. Alcohol-free. Then meeting up with the boys from my firm. Answering questions, asking questions. A bit of a debriefing and having a laugh. Only with our firm members and in quiet conversation. Even faces that you know, you do not talk with them about it. What you have done or what they have done. You never know who is on that train. You question everything and you are cautious about everyone. That is the mentality of a hooligan, especially of a Millwall hooligan. You are only one stupid boast from being arrested. So the walk back to the station was uneventful. If the Soul Crew had really wanted to make a fist of it on this day, why did they not stick around for another 20 minutes or so? My guess is they took the opportunity to get the fuck out of there. And who said the Welsh are stupid? Looking back on it, Cardiff were game, but let themselves down a bit by running away throughout the day. From what I have heard, Cardiff books portray a totally different story about this particular day. Never. Shocking, eh? Well, Cardiff are bound to do that, aren't they? It is clearly done to enhance their reputation. After all, there is only one way to become the king of the jungle, and that is to beat the lion. And if you cannot beat the king of the jungle, then just lie about it. All this from little Welsh rarebits who were ripped apart at Brighton. Twice. A fact I am led to believe is omitted from the same book. Never let the truth get in the way of a good story, they say. It would appear the Soul Crew live and write by that belief, because apparently they attacked the pub we were in, ripped us apart, turned us over, chased us up the street. That was Millwall's point of view, and the Cardiff book is mentioned a few times. Let's see what the Soul Crew have to say about the Bushwackers. I think it is that of respect. The following is by a young Soul Crew lad at the time, Tony Rivers. Millwall, the very name epitomises English football hooligan culture. In recent times the Soul Crew have entered a bit of a rivalry with the South Londoners, who have held the reputation of being among the most fearsome fans in Europe for many years. I had heard all the old tales second-hand, but my first experience of them came in February 1991. Cardiff were away at Halifax for a nothing fixture, and 5 of us decided to go on the train with the old favourite, the family rail card. How many football lads used to blag their way around the country with those? What was it now? The oldest person pretended to be the daddy, and paid a third of the fare. 12 quid, I think, on that day, with the kids going for £1 each and splitting the difference. It was a decent scam, but we were thrown off the trains more often than not, as happened that day. We got to Halifax by half-time and they still charged us 4 quid to get in, the full price. After seeing a rare away win, we got the train back to Manchester Victoria, and then made our way over to Piccadilly. The 5 of us were distinctive in our Stone Island coats. Up towards a taxi rank, I saw out the corner of my eye a group of older men kick past us. There were about 15 of them. We slowed down and one of them turned to us and came over arms apart. "You effing city?" he asked. I assume he meant Manchester City. "No, we are Cardiff," I replied. "They came around us. We are Millwall. We are looking for the Manx. We can't find them anywhere." We were awed as soon as the word Millwall was said. They seemed to take on a whole new stature. They were all 30 plus, and one look told us that they wasn't your average 15 lads on a typical away day. They were really friendly towards us, however, especially after we told them where we had been. They sympathised. "We have been there," they said. "Done all the shitty trips." They took us in the station bar and bought us drinks. We swapped stories, but we were more interested in hearing theirs than telling ours. Great tales of epic clashes with the likes of Chelsea and West Ham. Only weeks earlier, 28 of them had run Newcastle all over Newcastle city centre, which they were genuinely thrilled with. I got onto the subject of Cardiff. They had the greatest respect for us. 2 of them were in their 40s and one asked, "How's Frankie and Peggy doing?" 2 of our terrace legends from the 70s. We effing love Cardiff. You lot have always been up for it when we meet home or away. These were real lads. A lot of boys might have had a pop at us, but they were different. We inquired about their Stone Island, and they put us in the picture of a little store in London at Russell Square that had the gear but at bargain prices. It didn't take long to visit this little gold mine. Racks of top-of-the-range ice jackets, camouflage, the ones that change colour in the heat, for around 50 quid a go. I bought two, first of all. A Stone Island denim for £30 and a couple of CP t-shirts for £5 each. This place was a treasure trove for a while, but soon after they put the prices up to match the other stores around it, so it was back to paying huge amounts once more. Millwall were vying for promotion to the old First Division, and the lads said they had Bristol City away at the end of April. They didn't much like Bristol City and invited us over for a look, and myself, Steve and Greenie from Barry arranged to meet them. We said our goodbyes and the Cockneys set off, saying that they had arranged with the Cockney Reds of Manchester United for a small welcome back to London fight when they had reached Euston. They were all excited about it. That's the thing with London. There are so many teams there every weekend that it is guaranteed to go off somewhere, be it in a pub, train or tube station. On the day of the Bristol fixture, we arrived at Bristol Temple Meads at 10:30 to be met by 3 or 4 Millwall. They had been out on the piss around Bristol the night before and sported a few black eyes to show for it. A call came over the station tannoy for one of them, a lad called Bobby. I later found out Bobby was the top lad at Millwall, and he let the others know that the train from London was due in. It arrived at about 11, and off came around 80 lads. These were the proper bushwhackers. There was nobody my age, and hardly anyone under the age of 30. The dress code was immaculate, almost military. Stone Island coats, CP company with no exceptions. We were to get to know some of these lads well over the years, but just by looking at them, you could tell each had a story. We started going a few times a season with them. If Cardiff had a free weekend or a lousy trip, games I saw included Birmingham at home, when a big crew of Zulus were ambushed at London Bridge train station and some put in hospital. These were the top Millwall, and to be honest, they always looked after us being a hell of a lot younger than them. Many Cardiff are friends with lads from different English clubs, and dozens of lads have come on their own or in twos to visit us home and away. I discussed many times with the Soul crew just how we would cope if we did come face to face with Millwall for the first time since 1986. That occasion duly arrived in November 96 in the Autoglass trophy. When Millwall heard of the draw, I received a phone call from one of their main lot saying that they were getting a coach sorted, and word soon spread that they were coming. A few days before the game, however, they told me that only a few were now coming, in a car, so I said that I would meet them for a drink with a few of their boys, no hassle. They turned up in the Albert near the station, 11 of them. There were a lot of Docks and Valley lads out, who don't usually turn out unless we play a club with a decent crew. At one stage, there must have been 60 Cardiff in the pub, and you could cut the atmosphere with a knife. It was awkward, but in fairness to our lot, they got up and left when they saw that Millwall didn't have the numbers and weren't really up for it. With only 4 or 5 Cardiff left in the pub, I went to the toilet to powder my nose, wink wink, with one of the Cockneys. A minute later, the toilet door was booted open and one of our lot started fighting with the Cockney. I was more concerned with the Charlie getting scattered everywhere as they carried on their fight on the floor. While we had been in the bog, one of the Millwall in the bar was seen to adjust his cosh and remove a can of CS gas from his pocket. This was seen as blatant provocation, and the handful of Cardiff had given them a heavy beating. I couldn't do anything to intervene, and it was Millwall's own fault anyway. Some of our older lot could never grasp how you could talk to lads from other mobs, and the hardcore would take offence at larger numbers turning up on your own patch, as in this instance, and especially when they first call a fight on, then decide against it. It did always play on my mind that the Millwall lads had looked after me yet. I couldn't do anything to save them. We kept in touch, but it was never the same. A year later, we drew them again, this time at the New Den in the second round of the Autoglass Trophy, to be played a few weeks before Christmas. The interest was astounding for such a meaningless fixture. We agreed to keep it quiet until the game, then let Millwall know we were on our way up, We had 5 coaches booked full of lads, but in the end we could only fill 3, 2 from Cardiff and 1 from Rhondda, but it was a cracking 150. We got to London at around 4:30.
Every Saturday afternoon, exclusive commentary from the Barclays Premier League. Radio
We're greatest team football the world has ever seen, and it's Cardiff City. Cardiff!
Millwall were continuously phoning the boys, "Where are ya?" and "How many have you got?" Who cares how many? That question is a sign of weakness. They told us to go to the Elephant and Castle, which we did. At around 5:30 someone called them and told them where we were. "We are here, 3 buses, not 1 copper. It's up to you." We had an immovable firm on Millwall's manor, as they would put it, and the adrenaline was pumping over time. I knew their top lads. They would already be having an inquest. The older Wall lads wouldn't take this lightly. It would be personal. Not many teams have caught Millwall off guard on the old Kent Road. I walked outside the pub, which was called the Elephant and Castle. A car full of lads slowly came past and a shout of "Tony" came from the window. It was Gregor. He knows everyone in London and goes with Millwall now and again. He gets some bad press among some of the London lads. But every time I have spoken to him, he's been a sound enough fella. I can't judge a person by hearsay. "I can't believe you've got a herd here." Millwall had 40, tops, he said, and wasn't moving. We couldn't wait any longer and all left. It was already 7 p.m. and we couldn't be asked walking to the ground. So, Millwall were informed that we were walking to London Bridge. There was no bushwhackers there either, apart from a couple of spotters. When we finally got near the ground, the police fought hard to keep us and Millwall apart. They managed this until we got under the bridge and had to turn left toward the ground car park. By now there must have been around 60 Londoners, and they weren't just football lads. A few women came out of the flats opposite to throw stuff at us. A few Millwall got into our police escort, only to be met with a flurry of punches. The Millwall were then battened away by the old Bill. Bottles started flying over our heads. Among the 200 Cardiff in the ground were hardly any scarfers. They had been put off by the reputation of the place. We sang our hearts out for the whole game. In 1999 we were promoted back to Division 2, and guess who came out first on the fixture list? Millwall at Ninian Park, a Saturday afternoon fixture on the opening day of the season. I arrived in town at 10:30. A pub in Grangetown had been picked by our top lads, and word soon spread. I was no longer there to fight, but to observe. I nowadays have more important things in life, like, amazingly, a decent, steady job. At 11:30, Millwall and a few of their QPR allies were escorted to Sam's Bar at the edge of St Mary Street on Mill Lane. 3 Cardiff lads went in and started straight away. Following this, the pub was attacked by over 300 Cardiff. The police swarmed town but found it near impossible to stop the trouble due to sheer numbers. At around 12:30, another 150 Millwall arrived and were escorted to Sam's Bar. I saw all their faces. It was their best. Again, there wasn't many under the age of 30, and they had some gruesome-looking bastards. But so did we. Cardiff met in Grangetown and decided to go round the back of town to have a crack at the well-policed Millwall. The crew that left was of gigantic proportions, 600 at least. No kids, 600 proper lads, all the faces I had grown up with, following City. As we approached the edge of town, 2 police on bikes drove past us and radioed. One of them was dragged off his bike and thrown to the floor. A helicopter arrived, and more police, who charged at us with their shields, only for Cardiff to stand and fight back. Anyway, after the game we were waiting for them. We had huge numbers at this point. Suddenly, the gates burst open and out came the first lot of Millwall. The police were helpless as they ran straight into Cardiff for a toe-to-toe battle until sheer numbers forced them back in. Fair play to Millwall, they were game. Things seemed to calm down, but minutes later, astonishingly, the doors under the grandstand burst open, and about 40 Millwall came rushing out. 2 of them had mops, I kid you not. They must have broken into the cleaner's cupboard on the way out. 2 were immediately knocked out, the rest chased back in. Some were caught as hundreds of Cardiff joined in. The beatings that Millwall took underneath the stand were vicious. Those running away got stuck under the stand as more Millwall tried to come out to join them. They were crushed under the stand and were helpless. All were given a hefty beating. Enough was enough, and eventually the Cardiff stepped back, leaving many Millwall injured in a big heap. It could have been even more worse, but fortunately the Cardiff lads realised that the Bushwackers couldn't take much more, and I'm glad that they quit before someone got seriously hurt. On the way out, I even saw 2 Millwall men in their 30s crying on the floor. It was a fair fight. No weapons, no police. But it was too much for them to handle. 14 people were injured, with many needing hospital treatment. I have spoken to a couple of Millwall since, and they said that they have never seen anything like it. Police dawn raids followed against many people, mainly youngsters caught throwing missiles. One lad was nicked for walking through town in the morning trying to get tickets for a rave at an ice rink. He had apparently never been to a game in his life, but had seen the chaos and joined in. The return game in December saw the biggest police operation ever for a league match in the UK. The authorities were not prepared to let it happen again, and our normal fans didn't travel, but we still had over 700 there in a frightening mob. We were herded all the way. They even shut down a couple of tube lines just for us, back at Victoria after the game was crazy, with Japanese tourists taking photos of us and people staring in disbelief. As this army was brought through the station, Millwall rioted around the ground, but to no avail. I don't think that there was one punch thrown all day. Thank you for taking the time to watch this video. If you subscribe, you will be notified when we release a new video. It could be your firm we make a video about next, so don't miss out and hit the subscribe button. You can find me on Facebook or email me if you have a good story to tell. See you next time.